Hey everybody. Just gonna give it a few minutes before I get started, and then we'll jump straight in. I'm just gonna share my stream on my social media platforms, give people a chance to join, and then we can kick this knowledge transfer session off today. So I'll just post this on my social media, so just bear with me a second. Okay. Alright, cool. So we'll give it a few more minutes and then we'll kick off with this knowledge transfer today. I can see a few people joining, so welcome to those that are joining. If you missed the first part, I just said we're going to give it a few minutes until people join, and then we can kick this off. Today's quite an interesting session, as you could probably tell by the title, integrating GNS3 with EVE-NG and physical equipment. Looking forward to actually delivering this session today. So, feel free to share with your friends, those that are interested. I'm just gonna go ahead and reload this one. And there we go, so we can get connected now. Alright, cool. So I'm streaming today on Twitch and YouTube, and I'll just make sure that's right. Just give me a second. There we go. So hopefully you guys should be able to reach me via chat on that, and I will pick it up. So feel free to comment, and hopefully it should go on to that. Alright, cool. So it's been a couple of minutes now, 3 minutes. I'm going to kick off, and for those that join later on, they can hopefully catch up by watching the replay afterwards. So let me just go back to the presentation. So yeah, just before I start, I just want to start by saying my website, synac.co.uk, we've recently had to change the name, so it's actually called cybercbk.co.uk. I'll post a link on in the description afterwards, but I've also posted a blog to this knowledge transfer that I'm going to be doing today, so you can read up on that, and the video, this live stream will also accompany that later on after we've finished the stream. Other than that, everything else is the same. Twitter the same, YouTube the same, so that's cool. So I'll just start by saying Kashif, hi, thanks for joining. And let's get started. So today's session is about how we can integrate GNS3 with EVE-NG and physical equipment. Now, some of you might be asking, well, why would you want to do that? Why don't you just either use GNS3 or EVE-NG? And there's a few reasons why, a few reasons I've put in the article to accompany this, but for me it's simply because I was using GNS3 for quite a while. I still use GNS3, and then I also use EVE-NG now, and I have network topologies already set up within GNS3 that I don't really want to start again within EVE-NG, so I thought it'd be wise to keep the GNS3 running and somehow get EVE-NG operational and find a way to communicate between the two. And I've been able to do that. And not only that, I've also been able to link up my physical equipment to both GNS3 and EVE-NG. And this is good for those that are either studying certifications like, for instance, I'm currently studying the CCIE security. So my main reason for doing this was so that I could link my physical equipment to, the ICE virtual machine. There's certain configurations, switch configurations such as .1x that you need to do on physical equipment. And I want to be able to do as much as I can before my certification exam. So that's pretty much the main reason why. So there's a few prerequisites that you need in order to get this up and running. So we are looking at having GNS3, as we've already spoken about. EVE-NG, you need to have downloaded and installed, and a separate internal network. So the reason I've put this in there is because, especially those that have not got segmentation within their LAN environment, you might want to create a separate lab test environment where you can essentially like a DMZ, where you can actually use that as your lab and you're not messing about with your actual network. Physical equipment is obviously optional, but part of this knowledge transfer today, I include that because, as I said earlier, for certification training, some of the features requires that you actually have the physical equipment to use some of the features, and the virtual equipment just doesn't cut it. And networking knowledge is kind of goes without saying really, but the reason I've put that in there because there's quite a lot of moving parts to this, which I'm going to show you today. So yeah, having a little bit of background in networking certainly helps, but don't worry because we'll be going through it today. And last but not least, VMware knowledge. We do need to mess about with a few virtual adapters, so being able to understand that also helps as well. So let's go on. Any questions? I will pause throughout and try and answer any questions or catch up with you guys. So don't worry about that. I am looking at all the questions as well. Again, feel free to share the live stream link to your friends or those that might be interested. So moving on, so the use case for this, I've kind of put one together just to clarify, just to give you a little bit more clarity. And so this is it. So you've been using GNS3 for a while now and have an environment set up and configured. You recently came across EVE-NG and you've decided that you want to start using that, but don't want to have to start from scratch with your current environment. You also have physical equipment that you want to integrate with your virtual environment so that you can test features that just aren't available on virtual equipment. So as I say, for me, it's things that are covered in the CCIE security, such as .1x and authenticating with ICE that you just can't do virtually. So having physical equipment helps. And yeah, so that's essentially what we're going to go through today. So I've put together like a list, if you like, of how we kind of go through this and get started. So I'm going to try to touch on all these and hopefully it all makes sense to you guys. But like I say, feel free to ask questions and I will pause throughout to try and answer the questions. So you need to start off obviously by downloading EVE-NG. So head over to their website and download that. I will also put the link in the description, even though it's pretty straightforward to find. You need to obviously set up EVE-NG, make sure that you've got your images that you're going to be using installed and ready to go before you start with this. I won't be going through that in this knowledge transfer today. I assume that those that are looking to do this already have EVE-NG operational. Once you've done that, you need to establish what PNet adapters map to what virtual adapters within VMware. So we're going to take a look at that because if you're not familiar with it, it can be a little bit confusing. And then we are going to add virtual adapters to EVE-NG. Now this is the interesting part where we start to link it all up and hopefully get routing between our rail network, our physical LAN, and our EVE-NG and GNS3. So we'll take a look at that. And then we are going to configure a routing device within EVE-NG, and as it says there, this will be used to pass traffic between your virtual environment and your physical environment. So we're going to take a look into that, and then we're going to go on to opening GNS3 and configuring a routable device and adding the internal virtual adapter. Now this is a part where we'll be able to hopefully communicate from GNS3 to EVE-NG and then out to the internet. We are going to configure static or dynamic routing between the virtual and physical environment. So this is quite cool. I'm not going to go too much into detail about this because this is actually using part of my network, which I'm not really wanting to share. But I have got dynamic routing set up between my virtual environment and the physical environment. So that's actually quite cool, and we'll take a look at that briefly. And then we need to, the way I've got it set up, we need to, and this is, all these steps I've put together based on how I've managed to come together and put all this together. So we're going to need to configure a static route on the main PC to route to the virtual environment. So we'll take a look at that. And then we will connect to virtual devices using the physical PC or laptop. So we'll take a look at how we connect from this actual device that I'm on now physically to a virtual environment. Okay, so without further ado, let's get started. So we'll just switch over. So this is my EVE-NG environment. I currently don't focus really too much on the topology. I just want to give you a quick overview of this. So essentially my labs at the minute within EVE-NG, I've pretty much got 2 ASAs in an active standby fashion, and I also have our virtual network and external connectivity out to the physical LAN. So what we'll do first is if we look at the presentation, it's probably best off that we go step by step. So we need to establish, I assume you've already downloaded EVE-NG. So what we're going to do now is we're going to establish what PNet maps to what virtual adapter. So going back to EVE-NG, we just quickly, in my case, because we've already got these cloud networks set up, what we need to do is we have a look and we can see the name that I've called it external connectivity, and we can see PNet 1. Let me just zoom in on that maybe for you, might help a little bit. There we go. And so that's PNet 1, and VMnet 2, which I've named it, is PNet 2. So there are a few ways that you can find out how these map. So essentially what we do when you are adding these devices Let's scroll across here and zoom this back out a little bit for you. Essentially, when you add in these devices, what you'd do is that you'd add a network, and then we just simply select one for the number of networks to add, and we could give it any name we wanted. So as you see, I call mine like external connectivity, blah 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 blah. And then you need to, the important bit here is selecting the correct cloud. So as you can see, it doesn't name it as PNet1, PNet2, PNet3 and so forth. It says cloud 1, 2, 3 and so on. So we need to find out, well, essentially the management cloud. Leave this one because this is the actual network that is used for EVE-NG to access the web UI. So cloud 1 is essentially PNet1 and cloud 2 is essentially PNet2. I think that's how it works, but there's another way we could actually find this out, and what we need to do is we need to go across to the VM itself, and then we need to click on settings, and then we should get the actual device settings up here. So we can see that the original adapter is, if you like, or adapter 1 is set to NAT. Now as I said, this is you can leave this because this is the actual adapter that is used to connect to the web UI. So this is using the NATed adapter, and we can see in my case I've actually set network adapter 2 as bridged. So this is actually bridging to my physical environment. So this is quite important because when you first configure EVE-NG, the status is not connected and it's not connected at power on. So you need to change that. And essentially what we're going to do here is we're going to select bridged because this is going to be the adapter that we use to connect back to our physical network. So that's that one. And then we also need the network which we was talking about to connect from EVE-NG to GNS3. So to do that, what we need to do is with the third network adapter, we also need to change the settings to connected and connect at power on. But this time we're not going to bridge the network because this is going to be an internal virtual network. So what we need to do is we'll come down to custom and we select any host only VMnet that you have available. So in my case I'm selecting VMnet 2. There is additional advanced settings that you can do within the virtual network editor, but we're not going to jump into that. It's just simply changing the you can change the subnet, etc. But we won't do that as part of this video. If you do want to know how to do that, then just reach out to me and I don't mind showing you. So network adapter 3, let's just summarize. So network adapter 3 is going to be the network adapter that we use to connect EVE-NG to GNS3, and then the network adapter 2 is going to be the adapter we use to connect to our physical environment. As I said, network adapter 1, if you like, this is the adapter that is used to connect to EVE-NG web UI. So now that we've got that sorted, you might be asking, well, how do we map this to PNets within EVE-NG? Let's just go back to what I showed you. So how do we map it to our PNets? Well, I said essentially, let's just click edit, it's probably easier. So PNet 1 is cloud 1. So this is external connectivity. So if we go back to our settings on VMware, we can see, let me just open that. So let's take this as, imagine this is network adapter 0, and then this is network adapter 1. You can also verify this as well. So what we can do is we can actually log into EVE via the CLI. So we'll just log in, and what we could do is if config, they're gonna let me go up. Yep. So if we take a look, we can see that Ethernet 0, we're not too interested in that because we know what Ethernet 0 is. But what we're interested in is pretty much the MAC addresses. So it's not letting me select it on the screen because I'm on the VMware, but what we're interested in is the MAC addresses. So let's take, for instance, Ethernet 1. We can see that the hardware address, which is the MAC address, ends in C68C. So what we do essentially is we go back to the settings, and then we'd go down to that network adapter, and what we're doing is we're trying to marry it up. And the reason I'm showing you this is because if it's your first time doing it, sometimes it's a little bit confusing when it comes to actually mapping all this up. So we go to advanced, and what we do is just give me a second while I drag that across. So as you can see that there, what we do is we can see that now the MAC address actually ends in C68C. So if we map that back to Ethernet 1, we can see C68C. So this is how we start to kind of put together and work out what interfaces go where. And you do that again for Ethernet 2 and so forth for how many other adapters that you're using. So once we've actually mapped the PNets to the virtual adapters, we need to assign the relevant role to the virtual adapters, which I've kind of shown you already with the physical network and the host-only internal network. So we've added the virtual adapters in our case. These virtual adapters are already added to EVE-NG. You can see at the top right VMnet 2, and on the left side we have external connectivity, which maps to the physical my physical network. Now what we do, we get into the more interesting bits. So we need to configure a routing device within EVE-NG, and this will be used to pass the traffic between the virtual and the physical environment. So I've already got mine pre-configured just to make this a lot quicker and just to show you how this works. So we'll take a look at that, but before I do, I'll just see if there's any questions from you guys. Alright, cool. So thanks for those guys that have joined in so far. Alright, cool. So Kashif is asking if we can get the presentation and how am I. So yes, I'm good, thank you. Thanks for asking. Hope you're well as well. Thanks for tuning in. Yes, the presentation will be made available on my website after this live session. So do look out for that on cybercbk.co.uk. The link will be in the description. So yeah, look out for that. And also, am I from the UK, London? I'm from the UK, yes, but I'm not from London. I'm from further up north, so closer to Manchester. You probably know if you're not familiar with the UK, so I'm closer to Manchester. Alright, cool. So if there's no more questions, we'll get into the fun parts now. So we shall go over to... So what we're going to do now is the ASAV we have here, as I mentioned earlier. We have the ASAV in an active standby failover. I'm not going to activate the... I'm not going to start, the second ASAV, because for the purpose of this video. We don't need that active. So let's go over to the CLI, and what we're going to do just before I do that is we are going to test and make sure we've got connectivity out to the external network, and then we're actually going to try and route over what I call the WAN here. So this VMnet2 is actually routing over to our GNS3 environment. So this actually connects to GNS3, and then we should be able to, so the connection comes in here, and then we should be able to route to the ASAV and in essence ICE if we had that powered on, and the Windows 7 lab. So just to make this a little bit more interesting, actually what I'll do is I'll actually power on ICE, because is we should be able to test connectivity from my physical device routed out from my physical network into the virtual network to the ICE VM, and that should work. And for me to do that, I'm also going to need to start this ASA as well. So I'll just start that ASA as well. Let that start, and we won't need that yet. We'll just let that load up. Let me just open the console to that as well. Alright, cool. So now you know what we're trying to achieve. Let's head over to the CLI. So I've just seen a question coming actually. So yes, Kashif. So I mentioned at the start, the main benefit of actually doing this is, so for instance, if you take a look at GNS3, I've already got an environment already set up and configured here. For me to be able to move this ICE node, this ICE virtual machine, I'm going to have to start from scratch in terms of configurations if I move this to EVE-NG. So what I decided to do was keep my topologies that I have within GNS3 and find a way for me to be able to route from EVE-NG from here to GNS3. So this way I can I can essentially use it as two separate sites, and I can also keep and maintain my topologies within GNS3 that I've had for a while without having to start them again in EVE-NG. So that's the main reason for me being able to do that. In terms of processor and RAM, yes, it does require that you have quite a beefy machine, but I mean, if you're using software such as ICE anyway and the ASAs etc., you should hopefully have quite a powerful machine that's capable of actually handling this. So yeah, in my case, this is why I'm using it, and I can see the benefit of being able to maintain my topologies within GNS3, because I've been using GNS3 for quite a number of years now. It doesn't make sense for me to actually tear everything down that I've done and start again within EVE-NG. However, moving forward, I will be using EVE-NG a lot more now, so most of the new topologies will be built within EVE-NG. So I hope that makes sense as to why I'm doing it this way. Okay, cool. So what we'll do is we'll head over to the CLI. And so this ASA is the ASA that we've seen within EVE-NG. So it is this one here. So what we're going to do first is we're going to actually see if we can connect to my physical network. So we'll do that now. So if we head back over to the CLI, let's do it again. And I think configuration should still be there. So just do a show root. So those familiar with networking, you see that I've got some OSPF routes here. So I've got a test network set up already, and I've got a default route that's pointing out to this network, and this is basically everything that's not got a route that the ASA doesn't have a route for. It's going to route it out to my physical network. So if I just do a ping google.com, you can see that it's resolving to the actual Google IP address. So we can tell already that we've got connectivity to the physical network and beyond from EVE-NG. So if I just do show OSPF never. So as well, I have OSPF configured, and OSPF is routing over to GNS3. So this is the, I believe that's the actual GNS3 router. So let me just check. So IP address include 1, I think it is 1, 2. Yes, I believe. Yeah, so I believe that's right. So if we, in fact, we could take a look. So if we look at, this is the GNS3 ASA. One. Oh, it's not called 1. Oh, I've called it. So it's called outside. So yeah. So we can see we have BGP. We have OSPF established between our VMnet within the ASAV within EVE-NG, connecting to our ASA in on GNS3. We also have, what else did we have? So I've got OSPF established with my DMZ network within my physical environment, and I also have OSPF established with a physical switch that I have running in my lab. So this is this switch. So let me just reconnect. So this switch has literally got bare minimum in, but this is a physical switch that's sat in front of me right now. And this is what I mean. It gives you the ability to be able to do this, which I think is quite cool. So this is a switch that's sat in front of me. Show IP OSPF. Let's just do neighbor. So we can see there that we've got an established adjacency here on my physical switch with the ASA that's running within EVE-NG. So 200, 200, 200, 200.1. So that's quite cool. So we're back over to the CLI now. So we know that we've got connectivity now from EVE-NG. Let's go back to the topology. It kind of make more sense, I think. So we know we've got connectivity from this ASA now, going out to this physical environment that I've got sat in front of me. Now we know that we've got an OSPF adjacency established between the virtual adapter, which connects to GNS3, which is, let's just go over here. So it connects to that ASA here. So this is basically what we've got now, is we've got a virtual network connecting from EVE-NG to GNS3, and anything from GNS3 should be able to route out as well. Now there's more configurations than just configuring IP addresses, etc. There is quite a lot more depending on how you set your network up. I think I've got things like NAT running, etc. But we can. I'm not going to touch on all of that today. My main aim is just to show you that it is possible to do this and how you do it. So, for instance, this is the GNS3 ASA. So if I just do show on that. So yeah, we've got NAT rules translating from what I call the DMZ, which is where ICE is sat, going out to the internet and inside to outside as well. So I'm just going to check a minute and make sure that ICE is booted up. I'm just going to have to restart that, I think. And what we'll do now is we'll try and ping from this ASA1 on GNS3 out to in fact, let's just do a show route. So we can see we've got a static default route pointing to the ASA in EVE-NG, because we know we've got a default route from there going out to the physical network. We know as well via OSPF we can reach these networks, which is quite cool, which is on the physical. So if I try and ping Google, I'm not sure if resolution's on here. So yeah, so I can ping Google from my ASA sat in GNS3 as well. So we know that works. So we know from GNS3, so this is how it works. So from GNS3 here, we can route over the virtual adapter here, which is VMnet2, which we've set up. Then from there, it routes into EVE-NG. So it comes down this link here, and then from the ASAV, we can either route inside within ASAV, within EVE-NG, or we can then route out to our physical network. So what's the benefit? Well, the benefit is you can keep your GNS3 topologies if, like me, you've been using GNS3 for years and you don't want to tear everything down and start all over again. It does require obviously a networking background to set this up, but it's possible then for me to be able to route from my physical network to my virtual network and even ICE. So we're going to let ICE boot up, and while it boots up, once it's booted up, we can then try and connect from the physical machine, which is this machine, to ICE. We'll just head back to the presentation and have a look what we've done so far. So we've opened GNS3 and configured a routable device. So it was already pre-configured just to save time, but just to summarize, what we did was we created static routes and OSPF to route across the VMnet2 to EVE-NG, then out to the physical network, and we've proved that connectivity is working and established. So the dynamic routing and the static routes are configured. I've just spoken about that, and now we'll look at adding a static route to the main PC laptop, which is what I'm on now. This is required so that you can actually, for some reason I've not really looked into it yet, but my network doesn't, well, it hasn't redistributed some routes that it should have done, so it wasn't letting me get to the ICE environment. Let me just check the subnet of this. So if I just do show IP address, so yeah, the DMZ in ICE, as you can see, is set on the 50/0/50/24 network. I've got NAT set up for this, and I think it's using 203.203.203.0. Let me show DMZ to outside. So if I do show xlit, yeah, so you can see here, this is the actual ICE node. So if we just head back over to GNS3 real quick, this is the ICE node sat on the top left, and it's actually using 192.168.50.24. But I am not in, so anybody that wants to connect, well, I've got specific rules, in fact, that wants to connect to this ICE node will use this address here to connect to it. Or they won't be, so they won't be able to use the real address. They'll have to use the NATed address. So if I just do show run access list, yeah. So I'm permitting anything coming from the outside interface, which is essentially the interface that connects to EVE-NG. I'm permitting ICMP for testing from my WAN network only to ICE. And the reason it's from the WAN network is because there's also NAT on the EVE-NG. So if I just do show xlit, show NAT. Yeah, so anything going from the outside to the WAN is getting translated using the WAN, and also WAN to outside is using the is using the WAN interface. That's how it's working. Couldn't really remember how it worked then. So yeah, that's how it works. So if we try from my machine, I'm not sure if ICE is actually, the application server is up and running yet. We can try and access them from the outside network and see what happens. It might be that I have to put a static route in on my actual PC, but we'll take a look. So let's go back to this, and as I recall, the IP address was that one, in fact. So let's do HTTPS 203. So yeah, that's it there. Let's remove that one, and it might not load. So what we could do as well, I don't know if the application server is running yet. What we can do is we can look at the VM. Just give me a second. So this is a 1, and I can't remember my password. I don't think that was a password actually. I know it. There we go. So just to see if the ICE services are up and running, I'll just do show application status ICE, and this will tell us whether the application is up and running, which allows us to connect to the web UI. And while we wait for that to come back, I'll just see if there's any questions. Alright, cool. I work as a contractor for network firewalls. Oh, network firewalls, load balancer domain. Alright, cool. Okay. You can find me on LinkedIn. If you want to add me on LinkedIn, you can find me on LinkedIn. Name's Kelvin Charles. You'll find me on there. Reach out to me on there. You can also get me on Twitter at iWizKid. and you can also find me on my website as well. So yeah, if we go back to this, we can see that the application server, the third one down, is not running yet. So we need to give that some time just to start running, and then we can try and test again and troubleshoot and take a look at the firewalls and what's going on, then if it's not working. So we'll just go ahead and we'll run that again. And just take some time to output the results sometimes. It's not the quickest. That still says not running, so we'll give it a little while longer, and I'll take another look at that. So heading back over to the CLI for now, we can see that if we go back onto this, which is the Eve ASA, we can let's do a show login. So we'll do a show login for anything that's going to 203, 203, 203, I can't remember the 241. I think it is. So let's try again. Doesn't seem to be outputting anything. Let's just do show login from one. Okay, that doesn't seem to be up yet, so let's just let me just quickly run onto the ICE node again and see if that's running yet. I'll just do that in the background instead of waiting and showing you guys that again. 203, 241 from 192, yeah, so that's the built UDP. So this is DNS, yeah, DNS. It's DNS traffic. If I just do short access lists, so what we're looking for is anything coming from the WAN to the ICE server, which is that one. So this is okay. So hopefully I'll be able to show you when the ICE node is fully online. But if we just quickly go back to the presentation, The point that we're at now is we may be adding the static root to the physical device, and once we've done that, once we've done that, then we'll be connecting to ICE's web UI and verifying that we can use our physical machine to route over EVE-NG into GNS3 and connect to ICE. So that's the main purpose of this knowledge transfer. And then I'll stop and take any questions and catch up with you guys as well. So if we go back to the VM of ICE, we can see now, third one down, the application server is initializing. So this means it's coming online. So once that comes online, we'll be able to test further and hopefully connect. So while we wait for that, I've got a question for those that are actually tuned in. Do you find this useful? Do you see yourself maybe using this sort of setup? Have you been using GNS3 more than EVE-NG, or what's your thoughts? GNS3 versus EVE-NG, which one's better? For me personally, I've been using EVE-NG for a number of years, and I am now siding more towards EVE-NG, and there's a number of reasons why. Those reasons are listed on my article that I posted around this, so do check that out on the website. But one of the main reasons is because I feel like I can do more with it for my CCIE security. So that's the main reason why. But I'm interested to find out what you guys think. So we'll do another show application status ICE. And we'll see what result we get there. I'll just head over to the question screen while we wait for that to load and catch up with you guys, see if you've got any questions. Don't look like much has come through yet, but that's cool. Again, thanks for those that have tuned in. I hope you find it useful, or you found it useful. I've got numerous amount of videos on my YouTube channel for those that have not subscribed. So please do subscribe to my YouTube channel, and look out for more videos if this is something that you're interested in. The ICE server is showing as initializing still. A second. All right, cool. Oh, nice. Well done. Oh, cool. So well done on passing your CCIE security written. I took my first attempt back in January of this year, and I just missed out actually, so I'm planning on taking my written again before the end of this year, and then hopefully just continuous labbing and having my first attempt at my lab quite soon. So yeah, that's kind of the plan anyway. So yeah, of course you can catch up with me. As I say, I'm always reaching out to people on Twitter, Instagram. You can add me on LinkedIn. You can catch me on my blog. I'm pretty much hard to miss, really. So what we'll do now is we will head back over to this, and let's see if we can. I'll just run another show application status ICE just to see if it's initialized yet. But while we do that, we'll actually see if we can connect. And what I'll do as well is I'll see if I can actually ping that IP address. So yeah, I can't ping the IP address, and I believe that's because I've not got a static route on the physical device that I'm using. So let me just show once we know this status is up on ICE, we know that then we need to look at the routing. So I'm not going to share the routes that I have on this current device, but I will add the route in if it's not there already, and I don't think it will be. So I'm just going to check that. So I'll just head back over the chat screen while I check that. In fact, what we could do is we could look at the output from the application status ICE and wait for that. And I'm just going to do see what routes are on this device. Cool, so I'll just take a look at this, and we can see it's still initializing anyway. I mean, this takes ages sometimes. Hopefully it's not too much longer, and we can have a look at that. But I'm just taking a look quickly at the routes on this physical device, and it looks like the route is not there. So what I'll do as well is I'll add a static route to my physical device. Let's just go back to the CLI a minute and verify. Routes. Okay, so IP config. It's 110, and then outside is 204. So okay, 100.6 is inside. 200.4. Just trying to recall how I set this network up. Yeah, so I think that's right. I'm just going to check one of my adapters to make sure the network is right, but it should be. Yeah, 201. Alright, cool. So I'll just quickly add this route to the PC. Yeah, cool. Yeah, we'll stay in touch. I've not bought a workbook. I'm currently looking at the version 4 workbook with INE, and I'm also putting together my own labs as well based on the blueprint. So that's pretty much the way that I'm doing it at the minute. So just bear with me a second while I add this route to the PC, and then we should be able to carry on. So if I just do a route add, and then we'll add the reason I'm not showing this on the screen is because I've got quite a few routes going to different places here, so not really wanting to show that. So if you just bear with me a second, we'll just run another show application status ice for ice, and hopefully this time it's done, but we'll see. So while that does that, I'm just going to add this route to the device, and it's 203, 203, 203. .0, and I can't remember what subnet it is actually, so let's take a look at that really quick. So I think I'm actually doing one-to-one mapping. Alright, cool. 10, 203, 203, .0. Do 25. In fact, I'll add a static route for that specific network. 10.241. 255, 255, 255, 255. And the gateway will be I think that is it. So let's check that. Gateway. Yeah, I've done that wrong. Mask. let's try that. And let's have a look at ice. Is it still going? Alright, it's really taking its time today. So if we just do a show login, and see what we've got. UDP outbound. $200.1 was it? Just adding the route at the moment, but it looks like we're not actually going to get the ice server up and running anytime soon, because it seems to be taking a while to actually load. So I think what I'll do is I'll do this offline, and instead of keeping you guys waiting, and I will update the article on my website with basically how long it took, the steps, and maybe a few screenshots as well of it working. So yeah, I mean the whole point was to show you how you can actually create GNS3 with EVE-NG using virtual adapters, as we've shown each other, as I've shown you, sorry, and then how we can further map that to physical equipment. So I think we've already taken a look at that anyway, without getting access to the ICE node because it's taking ages. This lab switch here is a physical lab switch. So if I just log into this, so we can see that we've got connectivity to our virtual via OSPF. We can see that we've got connectivity to our actual virtual environment as well, which is what we want. So I should be able to ping $200.1. No, I shouldn't, because it's the, is that the firewall? Let me just check the IP address. 200.200.1 is the WAN interface. Ah, yeah, that's right. So if I do show login, that might actually show us yeah, there it is. So we've got it here, denied from 1, so source 200.200.5 to 1. Or 3.4241. Okay, yep, that's cool. So we should destination 203. That's actually coming from there. So yeah, that's fine. But we should actually be, in fact, that is a point. Yes, I need to change that routing on my physical device. But yeah, so in essence, what I wanted to show you was how you could actually integrate that with GNS3 and EVE-NG. For those that are thinking of moving away from GNS3 and using EVE-NG, but they don't want to start everything all over again, it is possible to actually route between the two and use labs between the two. And as I say, with the physical equipment, it is also possible to link that up and use your physical equipment with your virtual equipment. Now that's good for certification training, as I said at the start, so especially CCIE security. If you've got things that you want to do with switches that just not possible with virtual switches, etc., that's quite good to do. So yeah, I hope you found it useful. I also have an article on this which goes into some more detail on this. If you've got any more questions, please reach out to me. I'll do my best to answer them. But yeah, I hope you've enjoyed this knowledge transfer session, and I'll be looking forward to putting together another one. If you've got any more ideas on what you'd like to see, do post and let me know, either on Twitter, on the comment section of this video, and I'll be happy to try and put something together. As I mentioned at the start of the video, our new website URL has been changed from synac.co.uk, what you see on screen there, to cybercbk.co.uk. This will be in the description below, just so you guys are aware. So I'll just quickly switch over to questions, see if you guys have got any questions, and if not, then we'll call it a day. Alright, cool. It doesn't look like there's any questions from you guys. So yeah, thanks for those that have tuned in and out. This will be available after this live stream, so you can watch it back as well. But yeah, until next time, thanks for watching.